Alright, this is the second bike in part 6 of the 40 to 400 series. This is the 26-inch Hyper mountain bike. Pretty dirty, just like the 20-inch we just finished. So you can see there's a lot of dust. Chain's horrible. I'm not feeling that great about this chain, but as always, we'll run it through the ultrasonic cleaner and then we'll put it back on. If it holds, meaning it has good integrity, then obviously we'll keep it. And if not, then we'll just put a new chain. So I think what I'm going to do first is take it out front, give it a good cleaning, and then we'll start going through it. From what I can tell, I'm just try and show it here. The shifting actually isn't that bad. And then rear brake feels decent, and I took the front one off because I had put it in the car that way. So in terms of cables, knock on wood, we might actually not have to do anything. So I'm gonna go wash it off, and then we'll put it on the stand and we'll start going through it. All right, so I gave it a quick wash down. Pretty amazing how much of a difference just simple soap and water can make a bike look. I mean, obviously the chain, still got to take all that off, but the bike itself looks really clean. It could probably go for a wax and some other type of protectant, but for a simple wash job, it looks pretty good. So we'll get it mounted up, we'll work on the chain, we'll do the tuning, and then whatever else we find along the way. Right, so typically you just need a chain breaker to take the chain off. In this case, I actually had to remove the crank from up front just because it had wedged itself between the arm and then the actual bracket down here. So I could not get it out. The previous owner had told me that. She had said, hey, you know, the chain's stuck. And I really didn't think anything of it because I've seen them stuck. They'll fall off. They'll fall the other way. But this one was legitimately wedged in there. So one extra step, unfortunately, but not the end of the world. We just took it off and then we'll put it back on. Now I'll take the chain off. So we'll do a before and after of this chain. As you can see, it's got some rust on it. I mean, it is pliable. I know I beat it like a dead horse here, but we should always try this chain unless it's apparently obvious that it's not going to work, because a few minutes in the ultrasonic, along with just a $1.50, $2 master link, is a lot cheaper than a $12 to $15 chain. Sometimes you could get them on sale for like 10 bucks, but usually this is the most cost-effective method. So we'll throw it in here for 15 minutes, check on it, maybe another 15 to do the full cycle. In the meantime, we'll go over the rest of the bike, see the free wheels spinning nice and smoothly, the jockey wheels, they feel good. Probably take this time to work on the brakes, maybe take these off and re-grease the posts there. The shock felt good, and the front's crooked, so we'll have to fix that, probably grease it and just retighten it, but this one should be pretty straightforward. All right, so while the chain's going, wanted to work on the back brake here. So I'm going to show it is spinning. The pads are way too close. And if you watch the noodle, there's very little movement too. So I've spun it a few times. I think the wheel's pretty true, what I'm trying to say here. So typically what you want to do is use the barrel adjuster up on the front to adjust the minute tension here so that the pads move in and out. They are so close and the barrel's turned all the way in. There's no room for me to make any adjustments. So this is an instance where you can use a variety of tools. I just use a small pair of pliers here, and then brakes are typically a 10 millimeter. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to let it out until where my pliers are, and then I'm going to retighten it. And we'll retorque it to the proper settings later. But now, when I spin it, there's no movement. Brakes engage. So a little bit of rubbing. And there's a lot of, what am I trying to say here? A lot of extra room here up at the handle. So it's stopping pretty well. If we need to, we could tighten up the cable just a smidge. But what I'll do now is, with the brake pads barely hitting and it looks like it's kind of rotating here in one section, we'll true up the wheel. So let me get set up and we'll go through that. All right, so if you don't have a truing stand, one thing you could do is you can pull the brake in or use the barrel adjuster. And what that'll do, trying to show it here, is it'll bring the pads really close to the rim. And you're gonna wanna make sure you're centered in the actual dropouts and everything. But let me back it off here. And then I'll show you when I spin it, it very rapidly stops because there's some pad rub. So we're gonna use that pad rub along with our spoke tool here to adjust the tension on the spokes. So if you want a really good true, what you'll do is you'll utilize the truing stand. But if you don't have a truing stand, what you can do is just go by feel and sight. In some cases it's really bad. And you could sight and hear even where it's hitting. So I'm hearing some pad rub in this area. So I'm going to make some small fine-tuning adjustments here. I'm going to add just a little bit of tension to each of these spokes. Add a little more. While I'm doing it, I'm also going to check the tension on the other spokes. And I'm just feeling for when it's dragging. So there's some light dragging, it's going to be okay. But then like right here, there's a big contact. And it's contacting on the other side here. So I put my hand here. And what I want to do is I want to tighten the spokes on this side, because that'll draw the wheel, or the rim I should say, away towards us. So that's better. Overall feeling a lot better already. Just needed a small adjustment like I said. So not bad at all considering the brakes are about halfway engaging. So I'm going to move the zip tie off. Okay, and now we're going to give it a full spin. Still a little bit of rubbing, which should be a little easier to identify now. But if I hit the brakes, fully engages. Cool. So I'll make a couple more fine-tuning adjustments and then we'll see how the chain did. All right, so the chain's done. See, it looks pretty good. We'll re-oil it once it's on the bike, and as always, we'll do a stress test just to make sure it's not going to break. My stress test usually involves shifting it into a really high gear and then just essentially trying to snap it, because I want it to snap on me and not whoever buys the bike. So I'll put it back on, put some oil, and then we'll start the tuning process. And before that, just wanted to show the front brake was pretty much ready to go. Did a minor adjustment, but that's working well too, so no need to do any other adjustments there. So all right, so we got the chain back on. First thing we want to do is get the rear derailleur set, and then we'll deal with the issue of that front derailleur, specifically the low limiting screw, which probably dropped the chain in the first place. So as always, I'm going to remove the cable. We are shifted all the way into 6th gear so that this is aligned. And what we're going to do is just check the high limiting screw. So what you're hearing, let me adjust it here so you don't hear it. That looks good. The derailleur is a little crooked, so I'm going to just try and bend it in a little bit. what I'm trying to do is get the cog and then the 2 jockey wheels aligned. So that looks pretty good. And before I reattach it, I'm going to turn the barrel adjuster out. So I'm going to loosen it. That way, if we need to add a little more tension or remove tension, we'll have enough variability here with the limiting screw to do so. So I'm going to add that back. Now I'm going to put the cable through the channel. We want to make sure we've pulled the slack through, but we're not adding tension to where we're going to move the cage over, which would, mess up our shifting. So got that all set. Sounds good still. I think I missed the channel. Let me take that off. Make sure we get it right. A little finicky here. There we go. It would help to go the right direction. Alright, that's better. So the channel's there for a reason. You want to make sure you keep it in it. So, alright. So since it's an index shifter, I'm going to shift up once, and that should move the gear up. And it did, so that was actually pretty nice. We'll do the next gear. Same thing. Starting to hear a little bit of noise back here, so I'm going to visually check it. And it's hard to see, so let me see if I can bring it over. But the chain is just starting to hit the next gear, so it's a little too tight. And when I say a little, it's very little. So I'm going to back it off just a little bit here. And we're going to go to the next gear. Next gear. And then high gear. And it hesitated to click, which to me means our limiting screw is probably a little too tight there. So I'm going to try it again. And it's shifting, but again, a little tight. So maybe another quarter turn here. There we go. And now I'm going to test the movement, and it fell. So I do need to add a little bit more back to that limiting screw. Let me back this up. There we go. So I'm going to add that turn back just a little bit. We're going to try and drop it again. And we're good. So now we're going to start downshiftting. So not much to do on this one. The rear derailleur was pretty much set aside from just bending the cage and getting that limit screw set. So now we'll reposition and we'll work on the front derailleur. All right, so I have the front derailleur shifted all the way to low, and I have the rear cog here. Let me show you. In the largest, which is also low, so we're in low, low. And without any tension, and there is tension here, the cage should almost hit the chain, but from the other side. So let me show you here. You see there's a big, big gap. So what I'm gonna do is take off the tension. And it would help to have my tools ready, apparently. So I'm gonna take off the tension, or remove the tension altogether as a variable. So now the cable has no influence. And you can see the cage is still wanting to push it over. Let me see if I can reposition this a bit. Might be a little better for us to see. All right, so I'm gonna try and focus. There we go. So again, no tension. What I'm gonna do is adjust the low limiting screw. I'm gonna push it out because we want the cage to almost hit the chain. And again, the setup here is low gear, no cable tension, and the cage should almost hit it. So I'm gonna move it, and you don't hear it hitting because it isn't. So maybe just a hair back visually. Okay, so now I'm gonna back it up. And let's adjust it again. And so before I add this back, I'm going to look at the front adjuster, the barrel adjuster, and I'm going to turn it out a few. That way, if we need to turn it in a few or even back out a bit, we'll have that flexibility. So again, just like the rear, we don't want to add any tension right now, but I want to make sure all the tension is out. We're all the way forward, which would be low gear. I'm going to get it hand taut here. Okay, and now we're going to start shifting. So I'm going to move the rear down just a couple gears so that we're in the middle, and the rear is still shifting good. So now I'm going to move the cage over. We made it to the middle cog, no problem. The front one, I should note, is not indexed, so I'm going to just keep, you'll hear the clicking. So it's just a continual ratchet mechanism. We're going to go again towards the top, and it's not quite making it. So what's probably happening there is the high limiting screw is a little too high, or set a little too much, I should say. So I'm going to back it off, and we're going to try it again. And there we go. So now that's fine. Shift down a few gears. All that's working fine. Shift back up. The rear's doing great. Gonna shift down to the middle again. Shift to low. Shift up a couple in the back. And it seems to be working fine. So I think we're ready for a test ride. All right, so I need to start wrapping this video up. I might do the test ride tomorrow. I did do it right now, but I didn't record it, obviously. But bike looks really nice overall. The chain came out looking great. Nice integrity still. I really stood on it. Nothing broke on it, obviously. So yeah, pretty easy. Surprisingly, that was a lot easier in terms of time than this one, which we just did in the previous video. So I'm gonna put this away, clean up a little bit. We'll run through the numbers and then start looking for our next bike. So for a cost breakdown of the 26-inch Hyper, we paid $20 for it. Its portion of the gas was $3. We spent a couple dollars on the master link, and then just the use of the ultrasonic cleaner, a couple miscellaneous other things. So we're in it, total of $26. Sales easily 60 to 80, maybe a little more. We always start high and then work our way down. So our profit should be between 34 and 54, along with the 20-inch bike that's behind it. We should get, another 15 or so dollars of profit. So overall, we're looking at like what, 50 to 70 profit for just a couple hours of work today. I say a couple. It was pretty fast to go get the bikes. And then passion project for the 20-inch. So, maybe 3 hours total, 3.5 if I'm adding a little extra there. The Hyper was just way easier than we had really anticipated originally. So, yeah, looking forward to the next series. I think, and let me just draw it up here real quick. I can give an update on the total status of the project. Okay, so to catch us up to where the entire series is, before the folding bike, we were at $265. We're in the folding bike about $60 total. The sales should be about $120, maybe a little more. So a net change there of $60, which would mean this group today started somewhere around $325. It was $25 between the two, so $20 for the Hyper and then $5 for the Magna bike. We spent $5 in gas, $11 in parts. Estimating $80 in sales, just being very conservative there. That would be maybe $65, $70 for the Hyper, and just a little bit for the 20-inch there. Honestly, it could be closer to $100. Who knows? But at this point, just playing it safe. So all that combined would bring our new total to $364. On average, we make about $20 to $30 a bike, so we're about 2 bikes away from hitting our total. So coming along quite nicely.